Hey everybody.
Hello. Welcome to episode number 28 of the VoiceIt show, everybody. Hello to all in the chat, and thank you for tuning in this week as well. Last week we had on Buck Johnson from Hollywood Vampires and Aerosmith. Oh, look at all you guys, Anders, Adam, Jackie. Hello, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. And I think these weeks are really Johnson and Johnson week. Nothing related to the cosmetic brand, but last week we had Buck Johnson on, and this week we have uh, One Johnson. So it's really great. But before we bring on our guest, if we want to thank you guys for tuning in with us today. If you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, so please go ahead and subscribe. And a big shout out to our patrons. Funky, go ahead.
Yeah, Shelly O'Neill, Adam Gorak, Chris Vickery, and of course Anders Lindholm. Thank you guys.
Thank you for supporting the show. And a very special thanks to our friend Kara Tadman, who actually connected us with is so big shout out to her as well. And for the man of the hour, we have with us, ladies and gentlemen, One Johnson of Elegance and Faster Pussycat. He has recorded and toured with bands like Cheap Sex, Madcap, the US Bombs, The Generators, Unwritten Law, Murphy's Law. He's joined Faster Pussycat in 2010 as the lead guitarist. He has also he has also done sessions with the Grammy-winning producer, songwriter Nephew Feemster, and performed on the posthumous Michael Jackson album named Michael. In 2015, he became the music director for Massachusetts' most celebrated horror and musical festival called Rock and Shock.
Yeah, and he has also been a featured regular at the Ultimate Jam Session and Soundcheck Live, which are a few of Hollywood's high-profile events. And he's also appeared in music videos of Beast of Blanco. He's working on his project called Neon Coven. And besides his musical interests, he's also a voice actor and has done many voiceovers professionally. And of course, he is also a pitbull advocate. Yeah.
So let's welcome to the Voice of Joe, Mr. One Johnson.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Good day.
How are you?
I'm very
How
well.
are
How
you?
are you two? How's it going?
We're
Awesome.
doing well too. Thank you so much for coming on our show today, and it's really a great pleasure and honor to have you, Ace.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much.
Likewise. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank
Yeah.
you. How's it going, and how was the last year to begin with?
Yeah, it's going. The last year has been, it's had some trials and tribulations, if you will, and
Hmm.
things have been okay. I've just been staying busy and trying
Right.
to keep an optimistic attitude, right?
Right.
And yeah, everything's fine. I'm fine.
Yeah, we
And also, by the way, today we also have the honor of, yeah,
There's
we have been
my
joined by Myla.
my plus one in the background. Yeah, she's my
Totally.
permanent shadow. She doesn't understand. She just sees me sitting here talking to myself. So
yeah.
Good. Oh, that's one of the things, right? Her name is often mispronounced,
pretty fairly
and
often. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you got it
gosh,
right.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
She's
my hyphen Luh.
yeah, Mila. I mean, I've heard all kinds of stuff. Some people say Mela, which is fine, but I've heard
Hmm.
people put extra letters in there, like how's Malia and Malia
Gosh,
and stuff like that. I'm like, nah, you're getting a little off the
Valila,
reservation now.
whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So, going back into your past, into your childhood days, how was your childhood and how was it growing up?
Uh, it was sort of average. you know,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have a lot of friends. I think as a kid, I think I was a little more awkward. I think just liking the stuff that I liked then, which is the stuff that I still like now, which a lot of you can kind of just see behind me, is like,
Right.
you know, I liked horror movies and punk rock and heavy metal and
Right.
weird things. And I think, you know, as like a kid, you know, whether it's like 10 years old or 15 years old, I mean, some of that sort of socially, um,
Right.
a little bit of sort of led to being an outcast. But, you know, that being
Mm-hmm.
said, it did lead me to where I am now. So a lot of that
Right.
I wouldn't have changed regardless. But, you know, I had kind of a normal childhood, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome.
And
So, yeah, good.
so you grew up in a pre-internet era. So what did you listen to back then?
Yeah. I kind of was on the sort of precipice of pre-internet. I mean, it was there. It wasn't, you know, in your hand and everywhere. Uh,
Right.
you know, I mean, it definitely made for a little bit of a more grassroots kind of thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember, you know, my dad would say, you know, go out in the yard and go play in the dirt, and I'd take my, you know, GI Joes or my Hot Wheels or whatever and go play in the mud, and that was just what you did. You weren't
Totally.
uploading files and downloading apps, and you know, it wasn't. We had like
Right.
a Nintendo, you know, sometimes,
Yeah.
but you know, it's
Right.
kind of just made for an interesting way to grow up, I
Right.
guess. And I think a lot of the younger generation are going to miss out on a little bit more of the hands-on approach to some things. But I mean,
True.
you know, technology is a great thing, and you know that's why we're able to talk today. And
Yeah.
you know, I'm literally working from home because of technology. So a
Yeah.
lot of it is very beneficial, I think. But you know, I
True.
already forgot what the
True.
question. I already forgot what the question was. So I apologize. I'm just going in
No, no,
circles now.
it's no, 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 it's totally all right.
Yeah. So tell me,
So,
who did you listen to back then?
Thank you. When I was a
ah,
kid, I listened to a myriad of things. I didn't really know about genres until I got into high school. So I just sort of liked what I either heard on the radio or what my mom or dad might have been playing, or which was seldom, you know, few and far between.
mm-hmm.
And But I think Metallica was a big one. I think, you know, in the early 90s growing up, like you couldn't really escape the Black Album. It was just everywhere. And
Right.
and I really liked the Eagles and I really liked the Beach Boys and a lot of
Mm.
50s doo-wop kind of stuff. And then
Right.
also, you know, what was going on at the time, early 90s. So like Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, Nirvana, Weezer. And then that sort of phased
Yeah.
into like the punk rock thing exploding in the early, maybe mid 90s, like Green Day and the Offspring and
Green Day,
Rancid
yes.
and stuff like that. And so I kind of picked up, you know, I got the Green Day Dookie album when it was like
Oh
brand new,
yeah.
and I think I was 11. So I was a kid,
Gosh.
and then that's sort of between like Metallica and Dookie sort of
Mm-hmm.
shaped my direction, if you will, and off I went.
Yeah. And
Right.
talking about internet, how do you feel the internet has impacted the music business?
Oh, I think I mean, if you're just discussing the music business alone, I think it's done wonders for it. I mean, I'm able to record an album at home and send it. You know, I don't have to get out of my pajamas.
Right.
I think excluding some of the sort of like Napster, which then turned into
Mm-hmm.
you know, iTunes and digital downloads and stuff like that. I think there's been some benefit there, but I think it obviously took away from the traditional sense of music industry regarding like album sales and record
True.
stores and things like that. I sort of teeter back and forth with whether I think it's positive or a negative. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, I mean, you're able to communicate with fans, you're able to send product and email lists and websites and social media, which I'm not a fan of, but I mean, regardless, I think overall I'd have to say
True.
it's a positive for the music industry.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Do you remember your first gig or concert you played at?
Yeah, it's funny. I have a Patreon, and so I was
Ah.
going through a box of sort of early memorabilia I have earlier this week, and
Mm-hmm.
going through some things, and I actually found a VHS tape of the very first
Wow.
concert I ever played. I was 17, and
Whoa.
I don't know if it was something. I definitely have no interest in reviewing it, but it was at my drummer's dad's workspace, which was a high school, and they had this sort of
Wow.
in the back of the high school. They had these sort of mobile home
Mm-hmm.
type movable
Yeah, yeah.
classrooms, and so he had the key, and we would just go in there and rehearse. And we decided one day we were going to have a concert. We were going to put a show on, and we made
Got it.
flyers and got people to come out there. And I think we had like 30 or 40 people there, and it
Mm-hmm.
went. I mean, I think my bandmates were 16, and I had just turned 17, because I remember the date was 1/8/2000, and I looked at the tape and I said
Wow.
1-800, and I thought it was a
Yeah.
phone number, but it was 1/8/2000, and so I had just turned
Wow.
17, so we were all kids, and needless to say, aside from that, it was pretty forgettable. Just another bunch of kids making noise somewhere.
Oh man,
That's
it's totally. And when did you face your first crowd, or was that your first crowd at a concert?
That was, I mean, playing to 35, 40 people wasn't, what I
Hmm.
would consider a crowd. I'm trying to think what my first big
Yeah.
crowd was. Probably within the year, uh, at 17, and then maybe 18 years
Wow.
old. And the band that I started as a high school kid got put on a
Yeah.
lot of shows, and so we would play with a lot of like punk rock bands. Like we played with the Misfits, and we played with a
Yeah.
couple other
You
sort of,
opened up for them, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and that was great.
Awesome.
So those, a lot of those shows had 800, 1,200, 1,000 people. So that, for a
Wow.
teenager still in high school, that was a pretty good number um, of people to
True.
get in front of. But I mean, I definitely played to larger crowds pretty early on when I was touring with Madcap. Several thousand people. We were out on
Right.
tour with Fallout Boy and Warped Tour and all kinds of stuff like that. So we were getting out, playing in front of
Yeah.
3,500
Right.
people or 5,000 people, and I was maybe 19.
Wow.
So that was a big sort of
Ah.
eye-opening experience.
wow. That's awesome.
Wow.
And so, was it always your childhood dream to become a musician or a guitarist?
No, not at all. Uh, I, uh, I guess I just kind of fell into it, and I think I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know what I wanted to do. I mean, there was a bunch of stuff I wanted to be as a kid. I'm talking like 15, 12 years old, but I think every kid has that. I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I wanted to be, for a while, I really wanted to be, legitimately, I wanted to be a stand-up comic. I used to watch a lot of
Wow.
improv comedy. And the joke that I make is I wanted to be a comic, and I wanted to be a vet. And what is the bad joke I make? And now I still kind of work with a bunch of animals, and every time I get on stage, I still feel like there's a joke in there somewhere. This is a bad pun, but anyhow.
Ah.
So yeah, so I wanted to be a comic for a while, and then as you get into high school, and your parents and everybody starts going, so what are you going to do when you grow up? What are you going to do? I wanted to
Right.
be like a recording engineer and work in a studio.
Wow.
And so I spent my first and only year in college, which I obviously dropped out of, pursuing that. I took some recording classes and was gearing up to follow that sort of track. And I had a friend that was a
Hmm.
year older than me that had a studio that I would kind of go and hang out in and see what did what. And obviously that didn't go anywhere, but
Oh.
that was kind of that. And yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool. Really cool. So, you performed the alternative version of MJ's song called Hollywood Night, right? And there's a story there, like with the white Stratocaster and something. Would you like to share the story?
Sure. Yeah. So a friend, this is ages ago now, maybe 9 or 10 years ago. A friend of mine was James Murray, was
Yes,
speaking of engineers, was working on the first posthumous Michael Jackson album, Michael, and
wow.
he and I were out drinking one evening, and I was just asking, what he was working on, and he was sort of famous in his own right and had done stuff with, he worked regularly for American Idol doing the overnight mixes, and had done some stuff with
Whoa.
Michael Jackson. And he did a lot of the sort of new metal bands in the early 2000s, like Drowning Pool and Disturbed and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
they were working on this batch of Michael Jackson songs. And
Mm-hmm.
jokingly, we went to the studio after having a few beers, and uh,
Okay.
and he said, we got to record some guitars tomorrow. Why don't you just have fun with it, and we'll delete it, and then that'll be that. And there was no
Oh,
guitar. There
okay.
was no guitars at the studio, except in a closet there was an old Stratocaster
Gosh.
that
Oh.
was very, was very not not something I would want
Uh-huh.
to put. Like, the strings were corroded and old, and it just was
Oh
kind
man.
of junk. And so I just messed around, and I played some guitar on it, and he put his headphones on
Mm-hmm.
and edited it however he saw fit. And 5 minutes went by, and he said, "Hey, you want to hear your song?" I said, "Sure." And so he played back this track that had me on guitar, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." And he goes, "Yeah, and you'll never hear it again." And we laughed, and off we went. And then
Whoa.
the next day, he called me, and he said, "Oh, the producer's here, nephew, who's
Uh-huh.
worked with Eminem and Snoop Dogg and Rihanna and MJ and all these people, and
Gosh.
Michael
Wow.
Jackson and stuff." And he said, he really liked what you did. I played it for him, and we're going to cancel the session guy today, and we want you to come back and
Mm-hmm.
kind of finish what you started. So that was that story. And at
Whoa.
one point, where that track was supposed to make it to the record, but a different producer turned in an alternative version of the same song. It was a little more contemporary, had no
Mm-hmm.
traditional live instruments on it, if you will. And so
Mm-hmm.
the record label and project managers and Jackson Estate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, went with
Yeah.
the contemporary dance version of the same song. And they did what is called
Oh.
shelving. They shelved my song, it was mixed and mastered, and I have a copy, and it exists. It's out there, and it's so
Okay.
we'll see what happens. I guess last I heard was they were going to try to put it on a deluxe edition,
Mm-hmm.
Because it was
Whoa. Is it?
this
Okay.
alternative version done by this famous producer, and it's a Michael Jackson song. So, it was
Obviously.
just something I did that
Yeah.
just stays on my resume, and every once in a while comes up in instances
Yeah.
like this.
Really exciting, though.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it was cool at the time. Yeah.
could you maybe share with us some funny moments or incidents that have happened to you during the shows or off stage?
Well, probably the funniest and most famous one would be the bass player Faster Pussycat falling over on stage.
Whoa.
That went viral at one point. It was like on CNN, like some clip show or something like that.
Really?
Yeah,
My God.
if you go online and type in Faster Pussycat bass player falls over, it'll come up a bunch.
Um,
And
Whoa.
he was
Okay.
just having a really hard time, uh, and was drinking a lot, and he just was a mess, and he fell over, and it sucked at the time, but now it's just a funny
Right.
story. But I don't really know. I think I think that there are so many of those kinds of stories that they all just kind of blend together, and unfortunately, I don't really remember a lot of them.
yeah.
Pussycat once had a bus driver that stole our tour bus. He wasn't happy with
Tour bus?
yeah. Well,
Huh?
he owned it, and so he wasn't happy with
Oh.
the payment schedule that had been set up. And so rather than handle it between the agent and the adults, if you will, he just said,
Okay.
screw these guys," and he left us in a parking lot somewhere and took off. And because all of our possessions were on the bus and it's rented, it becomes
Yeah.
it's even though he owns the bus, it was basically like he robbed us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
and then he went over state lines, and it became like a whole thing, like a federal thing, and it was I think he might have gone to jail. I don't know, but that's one of them.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my God.
What a story.
Did you ever get those things back?
Oh yeah. Well, funny enough, the bus, because we hadn't, if I remember correctly, we hadn't paid up to date because there were all these problems, and the bus kept breaking down. We kept missing shows, and so the powers that be, if you will, said, "Well, we're not going to pay you up to date because you keep making your buses insufficient and making us miss our shows. So it's your fault that we're losing money. So why would we pay you until you get this resolved?"
Yeah.
And so that being said, the bus, he drove off, and then about 100 miles down the road, the bus broke down. So some of our crew went and rented a van and drove to it and got all of our stuff, and told them what's what. And off we went, and another bus showed up, I think a couple days later, and we resumed the tour. If I remember correctly, it's the same bus that the generator, which keeps all the lights on and stuff inside the bus while you're traveling, exploded. And then we had to have a generator put inside the bus, like in the sort of living room. So imagine if, like, in the middle of somewhere between your bedroom and your living room is a giant generator, spitting motor oil, and exactly. So it was a disaster, to say the least.
My God, what a story.
Yeah, what a story. Well, honestly, I think you not paying the driver, like whoever owns the bus, is fair. I have a question. I'm really interested in this.
Sure.
How was it being Jan Legro in the Beatles Blanco parody I Rise?
I'm sorry, say that again. It just totally cut out. How it was Young being what?
How was it being Jan Legro in the Beastie Blanco parody I Rise?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was fun. I mean, anything to do with Beastie Blanco is fun. I love those guys and gal very much. Brother Latham and Chuck and Jan and Calico and everybody that kind of in the crew and everybody. They're just a really solid group of people. But that was a fun video, just doing sort of the parody aspect, and the sillier the better, and and it was more fun watching them make fun of each other. and and then getting the direction, like, okay, so this is what Jan does, so you have to do, like, look at Chuck and see what Chuck does, and then you do it, but do it sort of like haphazardly. Yeah, that was a fun video, and then Alice is in it too, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love
the whole Cooper family, man.
Yeah. You're right. The whole Cooper family's in there. Yeah. Very, very cool. And then have you seen at the end? There's like an outtake reel, like where all the That's my favorite part.
Yeah, I love that.
My gosh, totally! You guys killed it.
Thank you.
We were chatting about it actually, Kara and I. We were texting, and she was telling me a little bit of the backstory. So
yeah, that was a fun one. That was I guess even though it's a parody, that was the third, I think. Yeah, the third Beasto Blanco video that I'm in as the stand-in bass player. I'm in the Feed My Frankenstein video and in
Grind.
Yeah.
Totally. Awesome. So we have one of our friends gonna join us to ask a question, who's a big fan of you. So he might come on anytime. And till then, who have been your influences, or if to say, your top 3 influences or inspirations in music or in life in general?
Okay. Probably, I'm a big Joe Walsh fan from the Eagles and James Gang and Solo and whatnot, and I can kind of trace his influence back to me being a kid. since Hotel California. It was like one of my earliest musical memories. And then I'm a fan of his as a player, obviously, and then I'm a fan of the fact that he, on a much larger scale, but I can relate to the fact that he kind of started in this band and then went to that band and then went to this band and then into the Eagles and then guests on people's, you know, albums and some of his own stuff and whatnot. And then as far as I'm trying to think kind of outside the box here, besides just naming like guitar players, I'm a big Henry Rollins fan. Not necessarily like a lot of, you know, I'm not like the biggest advocate of all of his music, but I'm a big fan of his spoken word and his writing, and just a lot of his outlook on life. I actually sent a friend last night a video of him talking about why he's unable to date, and I was like, that is who I am. So I can relate to that. And just his sort of, he's got I don't want to say a misanthropic approach to life, but he's just very like, you know, kind of like, I like what I like and I want to do what I want to do. And I'm going to do that over here. And you can do whatever you want over there. And just, you know, don't bother me and I won't bother you, but also stay away from me. You know, so I feel like that's his. I could be paraphrasing way wrong, but I feel like that's his approach to a lot of things, and I can relate to that. And then and then going, obviously, I've been a fan of his since I was a teenager as well. But I don't know who else.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, two out of three is not bad.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Amazing.
So this is our friend Chris. Come on, Chris.
Hey, Chris. How are you?
Ace. Doing good. Nice to speak to you, Ace.
Likewise.
Been following you since Chuck Garrick actually told me about you. I thought I was following you on Twitter, and I met him after a Goon Squad show, and he says, "Oh, you follow Ace?" I said, "Well, I think I do because I think I'd seen some of your tweets retweeted." Then I went home and followed, and then been following for about 3 years now.
Wow, thank you so much. I see the Neon Coven LP in the background. Pretty cool. Yeah.
I like the vinyls. Turned out awesome too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Marble looks great.
Yeah.
Cool. And, go ahead, Chris. You have a question?
Well, I was going to ask you kind of briefly. How did you wind up being in Beasto videos? Did you hang with the guys before, or?
You know, I don't really know. I mean, I've obviously been friends with Chuck and Calico for a long time. Calico longer. I think I've been friends with. I've known Calico for 12, 13. I'm trying to do the math here. At least 12 or 13 years. So a while. Wow. And we talk fairly regularly. And I think through her is how I got to know Chuck and like the Cooper camp and a lot of people from that sort of circle. And Chuck and I hit it off. Just, you know, he's known Taney forever, and he was in LA Guns at one point. And, you know, it's just there's a tipping point where once you sort of step over a line, then everybody knows everybody and you're just sort of in there. And he called me, I don't know, 4 years ago. And he said, "What are you doing in a month?" And I said, "Well, you know, nothing. I'm just getting home from tour." And he said, "Would you be interested in being in this music video we're shooting?" Jan obviously lives in Germany and we can't get him over to do the video, but we want someone that, you know, looks a certain way. I think presumably the tattoos and everything. And he said, "And also, can you grow a beard?" And I said, "Well, I stopped shaving months ago." At that time, I go through phases where I'll have a beard or I won't, but it's just mostly because I don't care. And, you know, if I look like a pirate or not. And so they had me come down and we did this all day shoot. I think it started at something ridiculous, as you would imagine, like 9 a.m. And we went till probably 10 o'clock at night and shot the grind video. And it turned out great. And we had a really good time. And then, however, many months later, they went to do Feed My Frankenstein, which actually, I'm incorrect. The grind one was relatively easy for me. It was a Frankenstein one that I was there like all day. And we shot those two videos in the course of maybe, I don't remember, 6 months or a year or something like that. And then they went to do the I Rise parody video and brought me in for that as well to mock Jan. And and that was kind of it. You know, it was just sort of like, who do we know that's in LA that's covered in tattoos that could look like they might be, you know, an auxiliary member of this band. And my hair was a bit longer then, and I think you know, as a sort of extended part of that family, it was I would imagine a no-brainer, and that's how they brought me in.
Cool. One other quick question: how are you liking Tennessee?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's great out here.
I live about 2 hours from Nashville, so I was kind of wondering, are you going to be maybe doing any of the rock and roll residency shows or any shows around Nashville anytime soon once it opens back up? Or
yeah, I mean, it all hinges on that. I mean, I would imagine once things open up, I'll be doing the usual stuff. But you know, until then, I'm just kind of hanging out, working from home.
Cool. Hope we get to make it to the show.
Yeah, thank you. I hope so.
I guess that's
all righty.
I'll get off here. Nice talking to you, Ace.
You too, Chris. Thank you.
Later.
Bye, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Talk to you.
See ya.
Awesome.
All righty. That was Chris Wigger. Great Beast of Lanka fan and friends with many of the members too. We had Jan, Brother Latham, and Sean Sellers on the show.
Yeah, I saw part of the Sean show. That was cool. I'm a big fan of his drumming.
Yeah.
Gosh, we were laughing like crazy, literally. Oh man.
Yeah.
So tell us about your voiceover work, and you've done a lot of it professionally as well. And I was checking, you've done for Netflix's Money Heist and Marianne, The Woods.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So tell us about that part of your life.
I don't even know. I guess I just needed something creative to do that could also be a sort of secondary career path. And people frequently, since I was young, would compliment my voice. And so interestingly enough, to talk about Bisto Blanco, Calico and I both 10 years ago, started getting into voiceover at the same time, and we're sort of sharing notes a lot and with some stuff. And I actually just talked to her last week about some voiceover related stuff as well, ironically. But I took some courses and studied, professionally trained voice actors, and did some stuff there and workshops. And it's just sort of similar to the music industry, where it's a lot of networking, and you kind of get to learn who's who. And I met a few people, and some friends I had already in the entertainment industry. I informed them of what I was doing, and kind of got my foot in the door. And that's what got me a lot of the jobs that I've done, including all the Netflix things I've done, which are all what's considered dubbing. So Netflix will acquire films in other languages or whatever, and then they'll dub it into English. And so someone will cast me as, whatever character. In The Woods, I was one of the lead characters. And in Marianne, I thought I was going to be a lead character, but I ended up disappearing in the first episode. And then in what I did for Money Heist was I was just a bunch of background characters. So I think I was 7 or 8 different people. And which was what the cool thing about the Money Heist thing was, Netflix ran a brief trailer. And I was 2 of the voices in it. So it was basically just hearing this, me yelling in this commercial.
Yeah, something, get him or something.
Yeah, that. And so that was cool. And, a lot of it's just who you know, and a bit of nepotism. So frequently I will reach out to people I know that are in the entertainment industry, whether it's film or television or radio, and I'll just go, hey, if you need anybody for anything, let me know, and I'll happily cut you a bro deal rate wise. And then I just do a lot of that stuff. And the great thing is I do it from home. And so I just hang out with the dog here and spend a lot of time talking to myself, and in my apartment in Hollywood, I think my neighbors thought I was crazy, because when I was doing some stuff for The Woods, some of it I had to
Mhm.
raise my voice, so I would be in my
Yeah.
apartment yelling these scenes, and I
Right.
tried to do it at a reasonable hour, so I wasn't screaming about some murder mystery or something at 4 a.m.
Right.
But yeah, it's been cool.
Hello, 911.
Yeah. I'm surprised no one ever came and knocked on the door, surprisingly. But
Yeah.
it's been a cool thing. I really like it, and ideally, it's what I would like to be doing full time, especially since nobody knows when music is going to kind of come back around. So in the interim, I would really love to swing into just doing the voiceover and
Right.
or even more so animation. I've booked a bunch of stuff as my speaking voice, but what I really want to do is animation, character driven stuff, and different. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it on the spot now because I think it would be funny, but
Do it.
anything. Yeah, exactly. A lot of it is my goal is to just do anything that's character driven or animation wise,
Yeah,
So.
that's
Yeah.
a very cool thing to do.
It's
And
really
tell me,
beautiful.
yeah. So, what has been the highlight of your career as a musician so far?
There's always something new. I think working on the new LA Guns record right now, which technically I could say I did today because I was recording until like 4 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah, I've just been tracking stuff all nonstop. Working on the new LA Guns record is definitely a highlight. The Michael Jackson song's a highlight. Getting to perform on stage with a handful of people I sort of idolize is always a highlight, whether it's maybe Doyle from the Misfits or
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on who else I can think of, but just
Michelangelo Batio.
Yeah, that was really cool. I'm a big fan of his. He's a really wonderful person.
Yeah.
Ricky Warwick from Thin Lizzy, Black Star Riders.
Yeah.
Half the guys from Guns N' Roses over the years, and
True.
whoever else and stuff. So those are always a highlight. But I don't know if there's any one specific. It definitely changes as time goes by. I'm sure if you'd asked me 5 years ago, it would have been something different.
Mm-hmm.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing things. Amazing.
Thank you.
So, while growing up, what is the best advice that you have ever received?
The best advice that I've received, it probably comes from my father, and I find myself saying it frequently. And it's, if you're going to do something, do it right, or don't bother doing it at all. And it's a bit condescending, and I'm aware of that. But for example, I think it was yesterday, and I opened the dishwasher and I pulled out a couple things and put them away. I was like, I'll deal with this later. And I literally said to myself, well, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it, do it right. And so I was like, okay, I'll put all the dishes away. And that's totally monotonous, but I apply that pretty frequently, whether it's even last night, I was like, well, I'm going to start on this LA Guns song. I'm going to start on it. And I was like, well, I'm already into it. I might as well, if I'm going to do it, I might as well keep going and finish it. And sure enough, I finished it, which is why I was up until morning. But you can kind of make it your own thing too. But that's probably it. And then I'm sure I've received a bunch of sort of, music industry advice as well over the years, but none of that really comes to mind. I can't really think of anything specific.
It's all right. And you love spending time with your parents, right? I heard you would, go into desert or something with your father and
when I was
cat snakes and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to go motorcycle riding with my dad a lot, and and stuff like that. Yeah, so those are some fond memories.
Awesome. And as we grow up, we go through a lot of changes, and even we change with the circumstances and people. But at the point where you are in life right now, what is the thing that has remained constant throughout your life? What do you think it is?
Probably my sister. She's definitely been there since I was a kid, and kind of my moral compass. and turned me on to
Beautiful.
a lot of music. So a lot of this is kind of her fault, if you will. And then beyond that, I would just say music in general. I mean, your favorite
Mhm.
album. Your favorite album never yells at you or tells you to go clean your room or to don't ever contact them again, or breaks your heart or whatever, making this up. But I mean, that's what music does.
Yeah.
It's something you can rely on and fall in love with over and over again. So
Right.
I'm just a fan of having, music.
Right. Right. And
So,
and your sister would buy you records and Didi Ramones and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all popping in my mind. But do say hi to her from our side, and do convey our greetings to her. If she's watching, hello, we love you.
Yes. Hello. And I'll talk to you soon.
yeah.
Definitely. Go
Well,
ahead, Funky.
that kind of reminds me of what I do with my brother. Like I'm
Yeah.
a huge Kiss fan, and because of me, he's also a Kiss fan. Like we listen to music together, and like that really reminds me of our situation. So when it comes to advice,
Yeah.
if you could give any sort of advice or pass on some wisdom to your fans and people who support you, what would it be?
Um,
Makes
I
you
would
think.
just say, I would say, I would say, stay true to yourself and, find what you love and let it kill you. I mean, in my
Mm.
instance, that's been music, and it's taken me all over the world, and at many times it's near killed me. But
Gosh.
I think finding something you're passionate about, whether it's music or art or acting or writing or math or politics, or whatever, find what you're passionate about and pursue that. And then if you're specifically asking about music, like being a musician or whatever,
Mm.
I would say don't worry about what other people think about your art. I would say
Wow.
if you write a song and it doesn't sound like what's cool right now, it doesn't matter as long as you like it, and rely on your own sort of self instinct to guide you, and you'll be
True.
okay, because if people listen to other people instead of what they thought was cool, we'd have no Beatles, we'd have no Linkin Park, we'd have nothing. You have to think outside the
True.
box, sometimes. So get
Definitely.
creative.
Totally true.
Yeah.
Yes, totally true.
Awesome
Those are
advice.
great.
So much.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we'd love to know about Myla and your love for pit bulls. And you're a pit bull advocate, and you like to, talk about rescuing, adopting the rescue dogs. And
Yeah.
you're involved in a lot of that work as well. So tell us about that, please.
Yeah. Well, I pulled where is she? Mila here out of a high kill shelter in the Los
Yeah.
Angeles area about 7 years ago. She's almost 8 now, but and
Wow.
I've had several pit bulls there she is, yeah, in my life, and they have been kind of maligned over the last 20 or 30 years in the media. It's unfortunate because I always say for every instance there is, and you'll read about in the newspaper, there's literally millions of these dogs that did nothing other than just be a dog. And so
True.
over the years, we, especially in America, have chosen different types of dogs to vilify. And it's been, started in World War II. We vilified German shepherds because they had the word German in it, and ironically, at the same time,
Oh, no.
a pit bull type dog was almost a military mascot and the most decorated war animal dog in history is a pit bull, and so
Yeah.
and then we vilified Dobermans and Rottweilers. And then starting in the early 90s, it became pit bulls and pit bull types, which pit bull when you say, at least here in America, is there's an American Pit Bull Terrier and an English Pit Bull Terrier. But if you just say a Pit Bull, it's a type. It's not necessarily a breed. And so it's an umbrella term. It's like saying I'm from Europe. Well, where are you from? Spain? Are you from Germany? Are you from France? It's a very broad spectrum. And the American Kennel Associate, what is it, AKC, recognizes a pit bull as, I think, 6 different breeds altogether. Wow. So when there are numbers of these types of dogs that may look a certain way, it's because you're comparing, the statistics are off, if you will. And so when you go, well, there were 12 people were bit by a pit bull last year and only 2 people were bit by a Labrador. Well, you go, well, the Labrador is one breed and the pit bull is multiple breeds. So the numbers are going to be higher. It's just a simple math equation. So part of, outside of the sort of normal rock and roll aesthetic stuff for me is just kind of campaigning on behalf of these types of dogs, because I hate the stigma that's attached to them, but then also, I can relate to the underdog factor, and I'm an advocate for rescue dogs in general. It doesn't just have to be pit bull types and whatnot. And that's just kind of what I've chosen to align myself with over the last maybe 5 to 10 years, and what I try to spend as much of my free time advocating for, and doing a lot of networking and stuff.
It's better than humans, right?
Yeah. I mean, agreed. I'm definitely I'm not really a big people person. And so, going back to people asking me, how do you feel? You're not on tour. You're stuck at home. And I'm like, it's great. I'm stuck at home. I love it. I don't have to be around a bunch of people. So there's that element for me. True. But yeah, I mean, a dog, if there's anything that a dog will teach you that a human can't, it's how to forgive, and what unconditional love is this, sitting there, totally. That I could be mangled and she still wouldn't care, or and unfortunately some people abuse that level of love, if you will, and trust, which is, and I'm kind of referring to like dog fighting and whatnot, or people that just abuse their animals. But it's just something I'm passionate about, besides horror movies and rock and roll and whatnot, and I try to advocate for as much as possible.
True. And you've almost spent nights just retweeting a lot of stuff about the dogs and whatnot, and support for them. So it's really great what you do.
Thank you. Yeah, I found that when I was touring, I spent maybe a little more time focused on it, because there was so much downtime. I think a lot of people that don't travel or tour for a living or at all don't know the rigmarole that goes behind it. But for arguably half of your day, you're sitting in a van or a bus or a boat or a rickshaw or whatever it is, going somewhere. And, unless you're, maybe like a gamer, or there's only so much stuff to do. And so a lot of the time I would find myself in a bus in my bunk, which is the equivalent of a coffin. Literally, it's like 3 by 8 by 3. And so you lay there and you sleep, but most of the time I would just be in my bunk, going, okay, this dog is in Cleveland and needs to be pulled. And I know City Dogs is just outside the city. So if I connect these two and send an email and whatever, or if I retweet, or if I can tag, or if there's somebody, there's a dog in Massapequa that has a leg injury and needs surgery, I can pledge $50 or whatever it is. Oh, I see Brother Latham is in here. What's up, my friend? My other favorite Les Paul swinging guitar player. And so I would spend a lot of my downtime traveling, doing that, and that was a good way to spend a bit of my time and feel productive rather than just, drinking whiskey and talking shop with the boys or whatever it is, and so, because you can only do that for so long before it kind of runs its course. And so that was how I spent a lot of my time while touring, because there's just so much downtime, and you run out of board games and movies to watch, so.
True.
Yeah.
We have some people's questions, Funky, if you'd like to read them.
Yeah, I was about to say that. So
Cool.
we have a question from Anders Lindholm, which is, have you ever lost an instrument or a piece of gear that you regret losing and want back?
Yes. I've sold a few things to a good friend of mine in the Los Angeles area that I could get back at my discretion, and I just sort of entrust with him. And so with that being said, I consider none of that lost. But my very first, hey, Kara, nice to see you. My very
Hello.
first electric guitar ever was a, what was it? It was a, it was a Explorer. I can't remember the brand. It was an Explorer shaped, like a lightning bolt shaped guitar. I wanted to be James Hetfield from Metallica, and I bought this when I was, I think, 14. And I didn't give it away. I didn't sell it. My very first girlfriend's brother borrowed it and then disappeared with it. And I think we broke up, and then I just was unable to get it back. But it was spray painted matte black because I wanted it. And then I got really into the Misfits, and so I wanted to look like I was like, this evil, spooky, look to my instrument. And I wish if I could have any piece of equipment back, it'd probably be that, just for sentimental value.
Yeah, I get that. And we also have a question from Almir Ismaili, which is, as a beginner, did you ever think that you would reach the point where you are right now?
Absolutely not. No, I frequently say, if you told my teenage self this or that or fill in the blank, I would not believe you, whether it's recording with this person or, getting on stage with that person or touring with this band or being in LA Guns or, being in the US Bombs or whatever it was, whatever sort of highlight or moment it might have been. I don't think, I think, like I said, I didn't really step out. I didn't set out to be a career musician. I was just kind of plodding along in my late teens, and I got asked to join a band, and I went on tour, and then I got asked to join another band, and then another band, and then I was recording with this and doing that, and it was all very one step at a time.
Right.
There was no greater picture. I wasn't setting out to join LA Guns when I was 20, or I didn't have aspirations of anything like that. I think I was just looking to stay busy and work, and and I've been fortunate enough to, I haven't had a day job since I was 20, so 12 years. I've been a career musician and the voiceover thing, but that's not, the voiceover thing is just sort of a side thing. Although I would like it to be my career, but that's neither here nor there. But I just kind of ended up where I did, and I'm grateful for that. A lot of the steps along the way. There's been a lot of people that sort of helped me get where I am. Probably a list too long to delve into, but there's definitely been a good half a dozen people that at crucial points in my life were like, hey, this guy over here might help, or put you in my band, or introduce you to somebody, or whatever it is. And I'm grateful for a lot of those people for those opportunities, because this is why I am where I am. And if my teenage self, if I met myself 20 years ago, I wouldn't believe any of the stories I could tell myself.
Gosh.
Yeah.
You know what? We feel the same, because I'm 25 right now. And Funky, do you want to give your age away?
Yeah, I'm gonna be 17 this year, so like I'm really young.
Yeah, you guys are both.
Yeah,
Really,
so we talking to you right now is kind of a dream come true for us. So
Yeah,
there you
absolutely.
go.
well, hopefully, I hope some of this advice or whatever you guys can apply in your own right,
Definitely,
and maybe will
definitely.
help you, whether it's if you're going to do something, do it right, or whatever else, or just, like I said, be true to yourselves. If there's something you're interested in pursuing, clearly you are. I mean, you've got this great podcast and a series of other
Thank
things
you.
you're both working on, and that's really impressive, especially at both your ages. So that's
Thank you.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes. One of our friends is waiting backstage. He wants to say hi to you. Come on, Adam. Hello.
Hey.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's past my bedtime here in Australia, but I'm doing fine.
All right, on. What part of
What time
Australia?
is it there, Adam?
It's almost 5 a.m.
Oh, wow.
Go.
Yeah, I told these guys I'll, stay up and hang out with you guys for a bit. So
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate
So
that.
right now we have India, Bosnia, USA, and Australia
That's impressive.
on screen.
Technology.
Yeah.
Technology, totally. Good, Adam. Any question for Ace?
yeah, I know that you're a big horror fan. So am I. So like, what's your favorite horror movie of all time?
Of all time, probably The Exorcist,
Yeah.
or The Shining. The Exorcist or The Shining, just because they're iconic in their own right and still terrifying, 40, 50 years later. And then I would say The Exorcist is my go-to number one because it was the first movie, followed by The Shining, that I ever saw as a child. I'm not talking
Wow.
15 or 20. I'm talking like 8 years old, like a little kid that I saw that just terrified me.
Wow.
And then now, to tie a lot of it together, Linda Blair, Reagan, the star of Exorcist, is a friend of mine, and is also she has a rescue called Linda
NGO
Blair.
family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Linda Blair's World Heart Foundation, which I'm a big advocate and a big fan of her work. She does a lot of great things,
True.
and does a lot of stuff for a lot of pit bull types as well. And so I like that I've sort of traversed being a fan to a friend to every once in a while she'll text me with somebody, and I say somebody, I mean a dog, somebody that needs to be networked for or something like that. And so I can appreciate the movie as a fan that much more because I have a sort of personal connection, albeit
Right.
small, to it as well. And then it's a classic. I mean, it's hard to top that movie. What about you?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like it's I know that they're doing a remake of it as well. So what's your thoughts on that?
9 times out of 10, I'm not a fan of remakes. They usually fall short from the original. I think there's been a few remakes that were great. I liked the Friday the 13th remake.
Really?
I did, but I'm also very biased because Derek Mears, who plays Jason in the movie, is I guess one of my closest friends. I would probably talk to him a couple times a week. So biased.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll probably talk to him later today. But regardless, so I have to championing that. I didn't think it was a bad movie. I thought it was fine. And actually, we just did a scripted table read for the unproduced sequel to the Friday the 13th remake, and I did some of the voices. I was the sheriff and one of the kids that gets killed. But anyhow. Speaking of tying it all together,
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of remakes I did like. I hated the House on Haunted Hill remake because that's one of my favorite Vincent Price movies of all time. I did not really love the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I thought that was
that was
awful. The actor, was it Jackie Earl Haley or something like that? I think he's brilliant, but I didn't care for the movie. Remakes. Overall, I'm just not a fan. I mean, they're going to remake everything, whether it's a reboot or a prequel or a remake in just name only, or a lot of times what you'll see is they'll call it something else, but you're like, this is the same plot verbatim as something else.
Yeah.
So, when you think about it, most of the great stories, or I hate to say it like this, but all of the great stories have already been told.
True.
And that's why most of the great movies, you guys are all young, but I mean, a lot of, not to sound condescending and old, but when I was your age, yeah, exactly. When I was your age, we only had one movie, and most of the great movies you hear about are from 30 years ago, or 50 years ago, or 70 years ago, because a lot of the stuff that comes out now, and I'm talking pre-COVID, even if it does really well in the theater, in the box office, it comes out, makes a big burst, and then that's it. And it doesn't have any staying power. There's no Citizen Kane, or even when I think about great movies, I mean, I feel like Pulp Fiction around that time was kind of when you start seeing less and less of these movies that have staying power, and people are still talking about years later. So I don't know. I'm not necessarily a movie snob, but I'm definitely opinionated.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always been a bit of a hit and miss with remakes.
Say again, I'm sorry.
I'm always been a bit of a hit and miss on remakes.
Yeah, same.
Like, if it's done right, then it's done right. Like, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like by far the best remake I've seen.
I agree. I thought that was really well done. And I thought what Rob Zombie did with Halloween, at least the first one, I thought was really good. Yeah. I see your zombie shirt there. And Brother Latham's asking me how to throw a Frisbee. You're asking definitely the wrong guy. I have no athletic inclination whatsoever. I'm a big Rob Zombie fan. Yeah, I love a lot of his films, and definitely a fan of his music going back.
Awesome.
Yeah, same. Looking forward to his new stuff as well too.
Yeah, I like the new singles he's been putting out as well.
Oh yeah.
And Jackie is asking if you've seen Scream, the series on Netflix.
I have not, but I'm definitely interested in seeing. Is it good?
Yeah, I think it's totally worth watching, but I prefer to stick to the movies. But
yeah. Okay, I'll check it out. I mean, it takes a lot for me to get into TV, like TV shows. Like, I'm still. I usually wait for stuff. If someone says you have to watch this show, I usually wait for the show to end, to conclude. And like I did that with Game of Thrones. I don't think I started watching Game of Thrones until the last year. Excuse me, that it was on TV, because I don't want to get stuck at these end of season cliffhangers and then have to spend half my year going, what happened to Daenerys, or whatever it is. I want to watch it at my leisure. Yeah, exactly. But I'll check that out.
True. Hey, Adam, anything else you want to ask?
Nah, man. Hope to see you guys with LA Guns back in Australia soon, because I know you guys are supposed to come out last year, but
yeah, I hope so too, my friend. With this COVID thing, it keeps getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back.
Yeah.
I was down there a few years ago with Faster Pussycat, and I had the best time. So hopefully sooner than later. I know we were supposed to. I think it was scheduled for like August of this year, and they already announced, or at least to us, that they pushed it back to 22. So we'll see. I everything that's going on right now, it's hard to say, but I hope it's relatively soon.
Yeah, fingers crossed, man. All right, nice chatting to you, bro.
You too, my friend. Thanks for the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so that was Adam. And so that was really great, by the way. And just like Adam said, is there anything new coming up with LA Guns? I don't know if this is happening. Just a moment. Is this happening?
Yeah, that's the streaming show next month, roughly a month from now. Wow. That was recorded about a year ago. So it's our New Year's show from 2019 going into 2020, and so I'm not really sure what happened. I think we were talking about releasing it and then we just decided to do it as a stream. So basically, you know, you can buy it, and you know, because there's no concerts really going on, so people can watch that and sort of feel like they were there. And I've reviewed most of the footage, which normally I do not do because I kind of, you know, I lived it. Once was enough, if you will. But because it was getting put out like this, I wanted to kind of see it. And we're, as they would say, we're definitely firing on all cylinders there. So it's a really good performance, and
really cool.
Looking forward to people being able to see that show, because we'd been touring steadily for 2 years, so we were kind of really a great set list, and everyone was performing well.
So 2020 was much needed break as well, but now it's enough, kind of.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can relate. You know, I was okay having a year off, and now that we're past that sort of thing, I definitely would like to get back to work here at least by the fall or so. But it's hard to say, you know, because obviously none of that stuff's up to me. But you know, if I had it my way. But you know, nothing I can do, and so just keep working from home, and you know, doing voice work and recording stuff here, and hanging out with the dog, and hanging out, and whatever.
Cool. So everyone watching, do watch out for this, and go to Elegance website, and you can get your ticket or whatever from there. So that's it from my side, I guess. Funky, if you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions anymore. I just want to thank you for coming on and, let's say, gracing us with your presence, and for the advice as well. We're definitely gonna, you know, listen to you, to the advice, and thank you once again.
Absolutely.
Of course. Well, thank you both for having me. Keep doing what you're doing, and again, I appreciate you having me and the support here.
Thank you so much, and you always have a support, and a lot of love to you, Myla, and your sister, everyone. Totally. And once again, Kara, thank you so much. Special thanks to Kara watching. If you are, thanks a lot. And Brother Latham, thank you for tuning in as well. And before everybody heads out, these are Ace's socials, so check him out and go follow on Instagram, Twitter, and obviously you can find more info and his latest projects on ace1johnson.com. So go ahead with it, and we'll see you next time in the next week with another guest. And thank you so much.
Thank you guys
Ace, for joining us today. Would you just like to hang on a bit after the show ends?
Sure.
So, thank you so much, everyone, and see you next week. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.